Hare Krishna, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you for joining us live, and thank you for those of you who will be watching this recording later on. So today is the final part of this book, the 7th Gosvāmī, the life of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. We've done 5 parts previously. They are all there, recording in the live tab of our personal channel. You can just see live. You go there, you'll see all the parts. The 7th Gosvāmī, a very nice book compiled by Rupa Vilas Das, based on different biographies of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur and his own autobiography. So a very, very wonderful reading. It's mainly reading with all of you there. I'm not speaking much. I'm giving little commentaries here and there, little comments here and there, I mean to say, sharing a few verses, but it's mainly reading together. So this is going to be the last session, and we're going to be starting now after the Mangalacharna prayer. Om Gyanatimirandasya Gyananjala Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Mano Bhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guruho Shri Uta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunantam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijanam Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shivishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priyam Vanchakalpataru Vischa Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo 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 Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishta Bhutale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschachya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrindam Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thank you very much for joining us in this final session. We're going to be reading the final pastimes of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Yesterday's session was especially reading many of the excerpts of the works that he wrote, and especially those that he wrote specifically for the Western world. So there's this book called Lord Chaitanya Precepts, I forgot the exact name, which was sent to many universities throughout the world and other scholars. And one was sent to McGill University in Montreal, where I'm born, and one of the devotees got his hands on it while Srila Prabhupada was still dead. So if you type Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Life and Precepts, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, you will get that book. And we read a lot from that yesterday, and it was really wonderful the way that Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur was very much aware of the Western mentality regarding Sanatana Dharma and deity worship. Yesterday there was a great excerpt about deity worship, and anyone who would like to introduce deity worship in the West, I would highly recommend that you go and read that, whether it is from the 7th Gosvāmī, but if you want to read the whole thing, find Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Lives and Precepts and go to that section. It's very scholarly presented, and you can see that he's a transcendental genius. So thank you for all of you for joining. So we begin. Preaching and publishing until the last. During the rainy season of 1896, so that is the year Srila Prabhupada was born, that is the year that he sent that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Life and Precepts throughout all over the world also. By that age now, he is 52. Now he is about 58 years old. At the request of the Maharaj of Tripura, who had earlier invited the Thakura to preach in his kingdom, the dauntless preacher spent several days preaching the Darjeeling and Karsiyam. In 1897, the Thakura traveled and preached in many villages and towns, such as Medinipur and Sauri. spreading Sri Chaitanya's message and delivering the people of Bengal from the darkness of materialism and atheistic philosophy. The Thakura experienced great spiritual bliss and satisfaction in his preaching efforts. And 1897 also saw the publication of the 5th chapter of Brahma Samhita, published and edited by him. 5th chapter, by the way, is all we have of the Brahma Samhita. It is said that there's 100 chapters. All we have is only the 5th. Published and edited by him, along with the original Sanskrit. Srila Jiva Goswami's Sanskrit commentary and Thakur Bhaktivinod's own Bengali introduction, Bengali prose translation, and Bengali commentary called Prakashini. The Thakura's association with the famous Shishir Kumar Ghosh has been documented by Paramananda Vidyaratna and in a scholarly book called Vaishnavism in Bengal by Dr. Ramakanta Chakravarti. Shishir Kumar Ghosh, 1840 to 1911, was a famous journalist, the founder and editor of the Amrita Bazar Patrika, and formerly a Brahmo, follower of Ramohan Ray. So this Ramohan Ray, we read in the beginning of this book that he was mixing a lot of the Western ideologies and religious doctrines within Sanatana Dharma, and he was very much liked by the sort of new generation of young people in India. But he was a great speculator, and he was stressing on the impersonal aspect of the Lord. He had great respect and reverence for Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, having read some of his books, such as Sri Krishna Samhita. Being very attracted to the purity of the Thakura, he initiated a correspondence with him, and came to consider the Thakura to be on the level of the 6 Goswamis. And in fact, he once wrote to him, "I have not seen the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan, but I consider you to be the 7th Goswami." Yes, and this is actually the quotation of why this book is called the 7th Goswami. And I just realized that we forgot to say the prayer of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur before the reading, so I'll just read it now. Namo Bhaktivinodaya Satchidananda Namine Gaura Shakti Swarupaya Rupanuga Varayate. I offer my respectful obeisances unto Satchidananda Bhaktivinod, who is transcendental energy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He is a strict follower of the Goswamis, headed by Srila Rupa. So the term, the 7th Goswami, was coined by this Shishir Kumar Ghosh. So he said, "I have not met the 6 Goswamis in Vrindavan, but I consider you to be the 7th Goswami." He published a book about the life of Lord Chaitanya in English called Lord Gauranga, or Salvation for All, in 1897, being inspired by the Thakura's book Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, His Life and Precepts, which is what we've read excerpts from yesterday. He wrote biographies of Lord Chaitanya's followers and published an edition of the Chaitanya Bhagavata. He also preached the glories of the holy name in the Calcutta area and many villages in Bengal, being inspired again by the Thakura's example. Oh, so he made a preacher. Bhaktivinoda Thakur made a preacher. This Shishir Kumar Ghosh here was so inspired by Bhaktivinoda Thakur's preaching that he himself started to spread this Vaishnava Dharma. Practically speaking, in this time in India, who was preaching the cult of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? It was only Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and he had to deal with sahajiyas of many types. He had to deal with so-called incarnation like Bisaki Sen and other who would pass as Lord Brahman, Lord Shiva. He had to deal with caste Goswamis. He had to deal with the oppression of the English rule in India. He had to do his court duties. I mean, it's mountainous what he had to deal with. His Vaishnava journal, Shri Vishnu Priya, O Ananda Bazar Pratika, was published under the editorship of the Thakura on a fortnightly basis starting in 1890. Later it became a monthly. The Thakura severed his links with the magazine in 1899 because he felt the journal was indulging in prajalpa, idle or useless talk, by mixing Vaishnavism with the news of secular politics. Yes, so we saw that Bhaktivinoda Thakur was not so much interested in politics. Even at one point yesterday we read, he was posted in an area where there were riots between Hindus and Muslims. And he conducted a few judgments there, and then he wanted to be moved because he said, I would be partial to the Hindus, and he did not want to continue doing this. He wanted to fully dedicate in preaching the pure, unadulterated bhakti. Shishir Kumar was a nationalist, and he could not restrain himself from mixing in his views, which were very much opposed to the British Raj. The Thakura, on the other hand, being firmly situated in transcendence, could understand the futility of such indulgences and understood that the pressing need in human society was God consciousness. Men were spiritually all brothers. The business of dividing into camps of friends and enemies on the basis of the bodily conception of life had little to do with the reality he was interested in communicating to the people. You see, so even in present day, we have got a lot of Hindu Muslims, fights going on in India, and there's a lot of emotions that arise from that. So of course, we know that Muslims are very much, many of them are prone to eradicate Sanatana Dharma from India. And it's okay to discuss about it, but ultimately, unless both camps, one of them become Vaishnav, there's not really real help that is being done. We have to preach the pure knowledge that, this I'm Muslim, I'm Hindu, that is nonsense, Saeva Gokara. During the year of 1898 and 1899, the Thakura was fully absorbed in preaching, book publishing and bhajan. In 1898, the great work called Shri Krishna Karanamrita by Srila Lila Shuka Bilva Mangala Thakur was published by Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur with the original Sanskrit. The Bala Bodhini Tika, commentary of the older brother of Kavi Karnapura, Chaitanya Das Gosvāmī, a final summary, and Bengali prose translations of the verses. In the same year, he wrote a commentary on the Upadeshamrita of Srila Rupa Goswami. He published an edition of Bhagavad Gita with the commentary of Shripad Madhvacharya and Sri Goloka Mahatmyam, the second kanda of Sanatan Goswami's Brihad Bhagavatamritam, with the original Sanskrit and his own Bengali translations of the verses. The two last classes, actually, we read so many of his works that he published. Literally, there's chapters in this book and pages in this book that's only listing the works that Bhaktivinoda Thakur has written. He has written so many, it's unbelievable. In 1899, a Sanskrit classic of Srila Narahari Sarakar called Shri Bhajanamrita was brought to light and translated into Bengali by the Thakura. And in the same year, the highly elevated 168-verse work called Shri Navadvip Bhavataranga, which described the sights of Navadvip from the point of view of a fully realized soul, was presented. So many works that I never heard of. Of course, I'm not a Pandit or anything, but you see, this is interesting. All described from the point of view of a fully realized soul. These places are not described as geographical or historical entities of this world, but rather as Ishodhyana, or the transcendental garden of the Supreme Lord. In this work, the Thakura revealed that his Swarupa, his spiritual identity, was Kamala Manjari, the eternal assistant of Ananga Manjari. So he revealed it there. Just like Srila Prabhupada revealed in one of his, poem, that he is a cowherd boy, In his Shishi Radha Krishna Ganodesh Deepika, Srila Rupa Goswami explains that Ananga Manjari is one of the Vara, or supermost gopis, and sister of Tushrit Mati Radharani. Wow. Lord Balaram's two wives were Shrimati Varuni Devi and Shrimati Revati Devi, and they appeared as wives of Lord Nityananda, as Shrimati Vasudha Devi and Shrimati Jahnavi Devi. This is explained in the Sri Gaura Ganodesha Deepika of Shri Kavi Karnapura. Kavi Karnapura. Both Vasudha Devi and Jahnavi Devi are considered to be incarnations of Ananga Manjari. Of course, this is very hard to understand because many times it is described that this personalities on earth is an incarnation of this devotee and that devotee. So sometimes there appears to be transcendental like mix of personalities. I'm not going to comment on this, but this is noticed. This means that Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is the eternal assistant of the eternal consort of Lord Nityananda. Thus, it becomes clear why Godrumadvip, and particularly Shvananda Sukhada Kunja, where Lord Nityananda inaugurated his preaching in Bengal, the marketplace of the holy name, was the especially dear site of worship for Thakur Bhaktivinoda. Bhakti Kuti and Svananda Sukhada Kunja. At the turn of the century, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur was inspired to return to Jagannath Puri, the site of the final pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. His son, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who had recently been initiated by Srila Gaura Kishore Das Babaji, stayed there in his association as a Naishtika Naishtika Brahmachari. He was performing bhajan in the renounced mood of his gurus at the Gandharvika Giridhari Matha, which was located just near the Samadhi of Srila Haridas Thakur. In order to facilitate his son's worship, the Thakura had the temple repaired and cleaned daily, as has been described in the first volume of the series, A Ray of Vishnu. They gave lectures, and the Thakura established a place of bhajan a short distance from the ocean, also near the Samadhi of Haridas Thakur, which he called Bhakti Kuti. Later, when there was severe controversy arising from the attempt of the Thakura and Saraswati Thakur to correct the deviations of Radharamana Charana Das Babaji, the Thakura instructed his son to perform his bhajan in Mayapur. I do not know if we're going to be reading about this now. Radharaman Charana Das Babaji. So there was some controversy. A devotee named Krishna Das Babaji, who later became the disciple of the Thakura, stayed in Puri as an assistant and became very dear to Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He continued to serve him up to the last moment of the Thakura's life, and, feeling intense separation from his master, gave up his own life a year later. His samadhi is found just next to the Thakura's in Godrumadvipa. At Bhakti Kuti, the Thakura performed his bhajan in solitude. His biographers state that occasionally some impious rascals tried to disturb him, but Krishna protected him in every respect. A number of sincere persons also came there to see him, however, and they were inspired and saved by his association and blessings, which he readily gave them. The Thakura stayed in Puri for some time, but he eventually returned to his place of Godrumasvananda Sukhada Kunja, where he continued to chant and to translate and write books. In 1900, so Thakura is now 62 years old. One of his most important works, Sri Harinam Chintamani, was published. Okay, so 62 years old, at the very beginning of the last century, Harinam Chintamani was published. It presented the teachings of Srila Haridas Thakur about the holy name and other important aspects of spiritual practice, as collected from various Gaudiya Vaishnava literatures. So there's a series of lecture on the Harinam Chintamani that was given by Shriman Tadvavid Das Brahmachari. It is there in the ISKM TV. You can find. It was divided into 15 chapters and composed in Bengali verse form. In 1901, he published Srimad Bhagavatarka Marichimala. In this important book, the Thakura presents a study of the Srimad Bhagavatam in 20 chapters, arranging its principal verses so as to illustrate the divisions of Sambandha, the soul's relationship with God, Abhideya, the means for reviving that relationship, and Prayojana, the ultimate goal of life. Wow, that is nice. So, the Thakura presents a study of Srimad Bhagavatam in 20 chapters, arranging its principal verses. So it's not all the verse, but principal verses in the category of Sambandha, Abhideya, and Prayojana. That is very nice. And what is that called? Srimad Bhagavatarka Marichimala. That is a very nice... Fortunately, when I copy like that, the diacritics are all messed up, so I'll just take a screenshot. Any one of you maybe can write this down. That's nice, because I mean, this Sambandha, Abhideya, Prayojana is a very good way of approach to study books, you know. The Sanskrit verses were accompanied by Bengali prose translation and explanations by the Thakura. The Bhagavatam is compared to the sun, and each chapter is considered to be an individual ray of Bhagavata sunlight. In his concluding remarks, Srila Bhaktivinoda describes how he came to write the book as he did. How I was inspired to compile this work is a mystery which I felt improper to disclose, as it might constitute spiritual conceit. Subsequently, I realized that it would be a slight against my spiritual master, which might stand as an obstacle on the path of my spiritual progress. And therefore, without any shame, I record the fact that, while under the benediction of my Guru, I was meditating deeply upon the Srimad Bhagavatam one day, when in a vision Shri Svarupa Damodar, the intimate adherent of Lord Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, instructed me to compile the verses of the Bhagavata in accordance with the principles of Sambandha, Videya and Prayojana as set forth by Sri Chaitanya. Wow, that makes this book even more attractive. Swarup Damodar instructed him. So that the book could be read with an easy understanding and with happiness by the devotees of the Lord, Shri Swarup Damodar further guided me by giving me a wonderful explanation of the first verse of the Bhagavata, and he also showed me how I was to explain the verses in the light of the Gaudiya Vaishnava philosophy. Just see, these personalities are not in time and space, They can communicate with one another. Just like Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he saw the Pancha Tattva and the 6 Goswamis like that. Srila Prabhupada, also there was Srila Rupa Goswami's Samadhi right outside, And they talk to each other eternally. In the same year, the Thakura published an edition of Padma Purana as well as the Sankalpa Kalpadruma by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur with Bengali prose translations by Thakura Bhaktivinoda. In 1902, he brought out a supplement to Harinam Chintamani called Bhajana Rahasya. It was arranged in 8 chapters, and the chanting of each chapter is to be observed in correspondence with each 3-hour period of the 24-hour day. Each chapter corresponds also to one verse of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Shikshashtakam and deals with one of the 8 steps in the gradual development of Krishna Bhajan, as is enunciated by Srila Rupa Goswami in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Wow, this is transcendental genius. So 8 chapters, each chapter is to be observed like in corresponding with 3 hours, right? Because 8 times 3, 24 hours. Then each chapter corresponds also to a verse of the Shikshashtakam. Not only that, also one of the 8 steps of, Atau Shraddha Tata Sadhu Sangha Bhajana Kriya, like that. Wow, this is another Bhajana Rahasya. Krishna, I just have too many, not enough with one life. Okay, as enunciated by Srila Rupa Goswami in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. This is, sorry, I'm taking some notes here. Okay, all the chapters are filled with scriptural quotation explaining the philosophy and practice of worshipping Krishna. Each Sanskrit verse is accompanied by the Thakura's Bengali translation in both prose and verse. This was one of his last major works, and it can be observed that the subject matter of the Thakura grew increasingly more elevated and esoteric as time passed. It is clear that his daily existential experience was on the same level as that of the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan. In 1904, he published Sat Kriya Saradipika, a Sanskrit work by Gopal Bhatta Goswami on the samskaras, purificatory rites, and other practices pertinent to both Vaishnava Grihastas and renunciates. He gave his own Bengali translation as well. In 1906, he published the Bengali verse classic Prema Vivarta, a book by Jagadananda Pandita, the incarnation of Satyabhama, who explained his loving mood with Lord Chaitanya and the glories of the holy name. Okay, we'll come to the last known. The last known work of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur was called Sri Svaniyama Dvadashakam, 12 verse of self-imposed regulative principles. I actually quoted from that a few days ago, just before starting this series, one of the verses. Written in 1907. The Sanskrit stava was modeled after the famous stava of Raghunath Das Goswami called Svaniyama Dashakam, which was comprised of 10 verses of self-imposed vows. This work was a final statement of the Thakuras, an illuminating set of instructions regarding preparation for the spiritual realm of existence, and his expressed determination not to budge from the path established by Srila Rupa Goswami. So here we have it. So it's going to be 12 verses. So this is the translation. Okay. Birth after birth, let me be attached to the following, come what may. 1. To my spiritual master. 2. To Lord Shri Gauranga. 3. To the topics of pure devotional service as instructed by him. 4. To the holy places of pilgrimage, which are all blooming with sanctity due to his performance of pastimes therein. 5. To my Diksha mantra. 6. To the holy name of Sri Hari. 7. To the beloved associates of the Lord. 8. To the holy days associated with Lord Hari. 9. To those persons who follow in the footsteps of Srila Rupa Gosvāmī. And 10. To the scriptures enunciated by Srila Shukadev Goswami. 2. Within the forest of Vrinda, which is gloriously rich in the treasure of Madhuri Ras, Sri Krishna, the personification of spiritual mellows, gives transcendental bliss to Sri Radhika, who is the topmost manifestation of his divine potencies and the personified form of the supreme mellow of love and separation. The same Lord Krishna is identical to the son of Mother Shachi, who resides in Gauda Desha, Bengal, and teaches the process for rendering his own devotional service. May this Nandana be my supreme master birth after birth. 3. Let not renunciation be fit for my acceptance if it does not give rise to loving devotion, and let not knowledge appeal to me at all if it does not admit to the individuality of the Lord and the Jivas. I have no desire at all to practice the eightfold yoga process. None of these are productive of the happiness of serving Lord Hari, such as his confidential worship is. Therefore, let such abundant confidential service to Shri Radha Krishna be mine. 4. May I always dwell Gauranga Mahaprabhu, and there perform devotional service as is practiced in Vraj. Let me never dwell in any other place, even if it be fit for the happy residence of the most enlightened persons, nor even in a palace furnished with all the rich trappings of sovereignty. 5th. I have no attachment at all for the caste divisions of society, Varnas, and I certainly do not identify with any of the social orders of life, ashramas. I have not the least fondness for religion or for sinful life in this world. Instead, I desire to perform whatever duties are required for the maintenance of my body of dull matter, so long as they facilitate my performance of pure devotional service. 6. My austere vow is devotion to the lotus feet of Sri Hari. Thus I have chosen to cultivate the following in myself: great humility, simplicity, tolerance in all circumstances, respect for others, and compassion. Those transcendental activities alone are mine, which are recommended by devotees of the lotus feet of the Lord, and which are found described in books that are full of the imperishable character and pastimes of Sri Chaitanya. 7. I have no longing for residence in the kingdom of Vaikuntha, nor for sense gratification or material works. I will never cherish the desire for attaining impersonal liberation, even for a second. There are, moreover, pastimes of Sri Hari that are purifying for the conditioned souls. Yet they are different from the bliss experienced in Vraja, and being devoid of any relationship with Sri Radhika, they give me no happiness at all. Wow. You can really see the mood of a devotee in a particular rasa others don't. 8. I disown wife, daughters, sons, mother, and all my friends if they have no genuine attachment for Lord Hari, for his devotees, or for his devotional service. It is a great blunder even to accept foodstuffs prepared by such non-devotional, materialistic sense gratifiers. How will the perfection of my Hari Bhajan ever come about if I remain in their association? 9. Some persons have utterly rejected the evil company of those who are blinded by mundane logic, those who are addicted to the fleeting pleasures of the dull material body, those who turn their faces against Lord Shri Krishna, and those who are fond of the inferior concept of impersonal liberation. However, being swollen with excessive pride, they worship Govinda without Srimati Radharani being present. Therefore, I vow that I will never go near such as these, not even for a second. 10. I shall pass my life eating only prasad, food, grains, and milk products, wearing only cloth that was offered to the deity, and using only utensils sanctified by the Lord's service. I will thus remain aloof from material sense gratification, living in a place sacred to Radha, worshipping the divine couple with a blissful mind. I will in time give up my body at the soles of the devotees' lotus feet, who are themselves serving the lotus feet of the divine couple. Daily I will take the nectar that has washed the feet of one who is expert at grasping the instructions of the son of Shachi, and who incessantly adores the most worshipable personality and the enjoyer of mellows with Krishna Srimati Radharani within the forest of Vraja. I will carry it on my head with a restrained mind, and drinking it with great bliss, I will then offer my prostrations unto him. My constitutional tendency is one of servitude to Lord Hari, and will be, a long time yet to come. Due to the deluding power of Mahamaya, however, I have fallen into the ocean of misery. I will rise above this world of suffering by daily following my self-imposed regulations with determination. May my only guide be the mercy of the Vaishnava, which destroys illusion. This Svaniyama-dashakam was written by someone about his personal mode of performing bhajan. Whosoever studies this stava with resolute faith, offering his mind unto the beautiful forms of the divine couple, assuredly attains his residence in Sri Vrajadham, and following behind his own Manjari Guru, he renders all kinds of service for the worship of Shri Radha Krishna. Jai Shri Bhaktivinoda Thakur ki Jai. So the last known work of Shri Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Though incapable of commenting on such topics with any degree of competence, the author feels compelled to at least state his appreciation of the valuable nectarian instructions and amazing blessings given by His Divine Grace Satchidananda Bhaktivinoda Thakur in the Sri Svaniyama Dvadashakam, his final message to this world. All glories to Sri Satchidananda Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Yet there is more to be told. The Thakura's son, Lalita Prasad Thakur, in his biographical notes, tells the story of Sir William Duke. In 1908, just 3 months before the Thakur adopted the order of Paramahamsa, one of his sons, who at that time was working at the Writers' Building in Calcutta, came home one day and informed his father that Sir William Duke, Chief Secretary of Bengal, was in Calcutta. The Thakura had previously worked with this gentleman as a magistrate. The next day, the Thakura made an appointment to meet him and went down to the Writers' Building. Sir William met him just outside the building and escorted him to his office with folded hands. "My dear Kedaranath," he said, "when you were district magistrate, I wanted to take you out of office. I thought that if there were many men as qualified as you in Bengal, then the English would have to leave." Sir William used to read the judgments that the Thakura passed in his court cases and was amazed at the great wisdom they reflected. On several occasions, he visited the Thakura at his home and observed how he was absorbed in his writing of Shri Chaitanya Shikshamrita. The Thakura's wife used to feed him a lunch of puri, luchi, and sweets whenever he came. He was astounded at the constant activity of the Thakura. He then admitted that he had considered the Thakura's extraordinary abilities a threat to British control, but now he begged the Thakura's forgiveness. The English custom was then when a man grows old, he would approach everyone he had ever offended and beg their pardon, so that he could pass away peacefully. After hearing Sir William Duke's apology, the Thakura replied, "I considered you to be a good friend and well-wisher all along." The Thakura admitted later to being astonished that this man had wanted to do him harm, but he was so pleased by his repentant attitude that he gave him all his blessings. Well, all his blessings, he forgave him. All of the blessings of a pure devotee are much more than that. Acceptance of Babaji Vesha. Sundarananda Vidyavinod has described how Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur gave up household life and accepted initiation into the renounced order from Srila Gaura Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj. So he accepted the Babaji Vesha by Gaura Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj. But Gaura Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj is considered to be his Shiksha disciple. One day in 1908, the Thakura followed the Babaji as he went from the Thakura's house in Godrumadweep to the boat Ghata, where he would cross the Ganges and go to Navadvip. As he followed him, the Thakura repeatedly asked him to give him initiation into the renounced order of life as a Babaji. Gorakishore Das Babaji felt that he was very fallen and unqualified, seeing the Thakura as his spiritual master, and thus, with great humility, he refused to become the Thakura's Vaishya Guru. Soon after this, the Babaji, by mystic intuition, could understand that the Thakura was very determined and was coming to Navadvip to ask him again. In order to avoid him, the elderly Babaji went to the house of a prostitute near a marketplace in Navadvip and sat on her veranda for a while. He reasoned that if he had gone anywhere else, including the Ganges, he would have been discovered by the Thakura. But he would never be found in the house of a prostitute, for the Thakura would never enter such a place. Gorakishore Das Babaji Maharaj, he also used to go near bathrooms, to chant Hare Krishna so that people would leave him alone. Meanwhile, the Thakura, not finding Babaji Maharaj, could understand his uneasiness, and so he returned to Godruma. Babaji Maharaj then came out of hiding and went to the Radharamana gardens, where he began to laugh uproariously. When questioned by a devotee who was present as to why he was laughing so much, he replied, "Today I have outwitted Kedaranath Babu. I sat in the Mataji's house over there, and not being able to find me, Kedaranath Babu returned home." A few days later, the Thakura sent one of his sons to Navadvip to bring Babaji Maharaj to Svananda Sukhada Kunja. The Babaji agreed to come, and after a few days' stay, he consented to initiate the Thakura as a Babaji. According to Gorakishore Das Babaji Maharaj's direction, the Thakura, in his presence, put on the old loincloth and Bahir Vasa, a begging apron, of Srila Jagannath Das Babaji, his Shiksha Guru. Okay, so Gorakishore Das Babaji asked Bhaktivinoda to take Jagannath Das Babaji's old Bahir Vasa, who had departed from the world some years earlier. Okay. By his verbal consent and his physical presence as a witness, Srila Gorakishore Das Babaji Maharaj became the Vaishya Guru of Thakur Bhaktivinoda. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur followed the example of Srila Sanatana Gosvāmī, who took the renounced order of life in the presence and with the consent of Lord Chaitanya by putting on the old white cloth of Tapan Mishra. In this way, everything was done wonderfully, following the historical Gaudiya Vaishnava precedent. After this, the Thakura continued his chanting and writing, sometimes living in Godrumadweep and sometimes in Calcutta at the Bhakti Bhavan. So he took Babaji Vaishya. 1908, at the age of 60 years old. Last days. After taking to the renounced order of life, the Thakura accepted some disciples, and one of them, Krishnadas Babaji, continued to serve him as he had in Jagannath Puri. Feeling a strong desire to be fully absorbed in the spiritual plane, the Thakura shut himself up in Bhakti Bhavan in the year 1910, so that he could remain uninterruptedly engaged in the divine service of Shri Radha and Krishna. Feigning paralysis before the eyes of common people, he entered into a state of total samadhi, spiritual trance. On June 23, 1914, the sun began its southern course. It was the same day that Gadadhar Pandit, the incarnation of Srimati Radharani, had left the world some 450 years before. Precisely at noon, the Thakura entered the eternal pastimes of the Lord, far beyond the vision of the conditioned souls of this world. The Thakura's Samadhi ceremony was delayed until the sun began its northern course. At that time his last remains, his ashes, were taken from the Bhakti Bhavan and brought to his home in Godrumadweep. There they were placed in a silver urn and buried in the midst of a huge kirtan. and festival held in his honor by his disciples and friends. Hundreds took part, and his direct presence was experienced by everyone. Truly, the Thakura's great stanza, composed in glorification of Srila Haridas Thakur, applies to him. He reasons ill who tells that Vaishnavas die, when thou art living still in some. The Vaishnavas die to live, and living try to spread the holy name, a holy life around. So, this is the closing pastimes of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Excuse me. It's just very inspiring the way that excuse me. Summary of life and qualities. The Thakura's biographers have summarized his life and accomplishments in various ways, each of them exhibiting keen appreciations of various aspects of the character and accomplishments of this Mahabhagavata. Our beloved Acharya, His Divine Grace C.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, gives a summary appreciation of the Thakura in a transcription of a lecture given according to the text itself on Gaura Purnima in 1969. It was the desire of Bhaktivinoda Thakur to spread the life and precepts of Lord Chaitanya in the Western countries. So with this in view of publishing the book Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, His Life and Precepts, he sent copies to various universities, libraries, and one of the copies was found in the McGill University in Montreal. After 72 years, this book was found in the library by one of our students, and he brought it to me. So that was Kirtanananda Maharaj, who stole it from the library. From a materialistic point of view, I was born in a different family, and Bhaktivinoda Thakur belonged to a different family, and my spiritual master, Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakur, happened to be the fifth son of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Although at home, Bhaktivinoda Thakur was actually the spiritual master of my spiritual master, still he recommended Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakur, when he was a young man about 18 years old, that you go to Gaura Kishore Das Babaji and become initiated by him. Bhaktivinoda Thakur was a magistrate, and my Guru Maharaj belonged to a very respectable family, so he narrated the story before us. When he was recommended to be initiated by Gaura Kishore Babaji Maharaj, this Gaura Kishore Babaji Maharaj used to respect Bhaktivinoda Thakur as his guide. Therefore, we take it that in our disciplic succession, that Bhaktivinoda Thakur guided Gaura Kishore Babaji Maharaj, and Gaura Kishore Das Babaji Maharaj initiated my spiritual master. Therefore, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is accepted as the spiritual master of the spiritual master of my spiritual master. He is in the fourth generation, Grand Man Spiritual Master. So Prabhupada is explaining here how the subtlety of this basically Shiksha Guru Parampara is seen, you see. Although Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he took initiation to the Babaji Vaishya by Gaura Kishore Das Babaji, still Gaura Kishore Das Babaji saw him as his guide. So like that. And then Srila Prabhupada, fortunate Grand Man Spiritual Master. This is the first time I hear this term. I know the term Param Guru, like the grandfather spiritual master. But Grand Man Spiritual Master is the first time. So, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Sankirtan movement, which Bhaktivinoda desired in 1896, and somehow or other, coincidentally, I do not know what was his desire. I was also born in that year. And by Krishna's desire, I came to the disciplic succession, to to Sarasvati Thakur, and he asked me to go to the Western country and preach Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teachings. The spiritual line of understanding is different from the materialistic point of view. This idea is that I was born in a different family and Guru Maharaj was born in a different family. Bhaktivinoda was at that time a magistrate, a government servant. By Lord Chaitanya's desire, we have come in the same line of disciplic succession. What was taught by Bhaktivinoda Thakur in 1896, that these teachings of Lord Chaitanya should be spread in the Western countries by chance or coincidence, it is now happening. We should take it for granted that whatever is happening at the present moment by my humble endeavor, it is all the grace of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Therefore, on this auspicious ceremony of Lord Chaitanya's appearance day, it will be greatly beneficial for us to hear from Bhaktivinoda Thakur what he wrote 72 years before. And after 72 years, being a humble servant in that line, I'm trying to distribute his teachings. There is a spiritual coincidence, and we should take advantage of Bhaktivinoda Thakur's book. So Prabhupada is speaking that, this Life and Precept, 1896. Prabhupada's born also. So basically, I think Prabhupada was going to read from that book on that Gora Purnima day. Which year was that? Which Gora Purnima was this? 1969 Gora Purnima. I'm trying to distribute it. There is a spiritual content. Practically, this Chaitanya movement was, of course, Lord Chaitanya inaugurated this movement 500 years ago. And after that, so many pseudo-Chaitanyites depreciated the whole thing. But the Chaitanya movement in its pure form, as it is, was restarted by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Yeah. We should take it that Bhaktivinoda Thakur was the origin of the Krishna consciousness movement in its pure form. Bhaktivinoda wrote almost 100 books. Well, I don't know why they put almost here. Prabhupada didn't say almost. Bhaktivinoda wrote 100 books. Maybe some are not recorded too. Just imagine, he was a very responsible officer, a magistrate, and he was grihastha. Also had many children. Altogether, he had 10 children, and he had to take care of children, the office of magistrate and extra religious work. He was made superintendent of the temple of Jagannath because the government knew that Bhaktivinoda Thakur was a very highly advanced religious person. And that was only in his mid-30s, when he was... Whenever there was some religious question, he was consulted, in spite of all his responsibilities, as officer or as family man with so many children. He executed his family life very nicely, or else he could not have produced a child such as Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakur. At the same time, he served the Supreme Lord in so many ways. That is the beauty. He has written so many books, and in spite of cumbersome duties, that is the beauty of his life. He would come from the office in the evening and take his meals and go to bed. That was his program. And he'd sleep from 8 to 12 at night, 4 hours, and then get up and write books until morning. That was his program. In this way, he wrote hundreds of books, some published, some in the course of being published. All this became possible because he was a sincere, faithful servant. To write so many books with so many responsibilities for an ordinary magistrate is not possible. But because he was sincere, he got the strength from the Supreme Lord. One does not need to seek strength separate from the Supreme Lord. But if you are sincere, the Supreme will give you sufficient strength. Actually, Bhaktivinoda Thakur brought my Guru Maharaj to this world to be his son. He prayed to Lord Chaitanya that your preaching and teachings have been so much depreciated. It is not in my power to correct them. He prayed to Lord Chaitanya, and after his prayer, Lord Chaitanya sent my Guru Maharaj as his son. And he took up the matter very seriously. So, this delightful summary of the Thakur's life by Srila Prabhupada certifies a very important point for our understanding, that the pure cult of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had been lost for all practical purposes, and that Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur re-established the whole thing almost single-handedly. Yeah, this is, actually I did not really know that prior to reading this book, to see that everything he went through single-handedly re-establishing the Sankirtana movement in its pure form. Even he, those of you who've missed the previous sessions, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he wanted to get the Chaitanya Charitamrita It took him 8 years. In 1860, he wanted to get it. He got it only in 1868 because it was so hard to find a manuscript. After reading the CC twice, he was still thinking, yes, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the Supreme Lord, but why is he praising the pastimes of Krishna with the gopis? He was still bewildered. I mean, of course, externally. So that means the pollution that was there in India at that time when it came to understanding Krishna's intimate pastimes was so great. And it's only after the Thakura read the commentary of Sridhar Swami on the Bhagavatam that then he understood, So even he was affected, was to speak of the rest of the civilization. So he had to, show the proper Siddhanta of the Bhagavatam to the whole of India. He also points out that it was the desire of Thakura Bhaktivinoda that the Krishna consciousness movement would spread all over the world. He thus credits this desire of the Thakura and Lord Chaitanya as resulting in the appearance of Srila Saraswati Thakur and Prabhupada's own subsequent linking with the line of disciplic succession. Thus, the International Society for Krishna Consciousness is a result of the desire and grace of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, as substantiated by Srila Prabhupada in the above statements. Prabhupada also puts special stress on how the Thakura was given empowerment or strength by the Lord to write transcendental literatures for the benefit of the world. We see how Srila Prabhupada also followed wonderfully in this line, executing the austerities of early rising for the composition of transcendental literature. He poignantly states with respect to the Thakura's literature accomplishments that he accomplished so much despite cumbersome duties, and that this was the beauty of his life. In the biography of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur written by Bhakti Kusum Shraman Maharaj, he identifies three major areas of the Thakura's achievements. First, his books and writings in various languages dealing with the science of Krishna consciousness as found in the teachings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and the revealed scriptures. Second, the discovery of the Lord's actual birthplace. Third, the innovations he introduced for the purpose of preaching the teaching of Lord Chaitanya and the six Gosvāmī throughout the world. Beyond this, the Thakura established the deities of Lord Chaitanya and Srimati Vishnupriya at Mayapur and in Godrumadweep, his place of bhajan. He established and worshipped the deities of Gaura Gadadhar. And the place of Lord Chaitanya's appearance day. So he discovered, right? He had the vision. And he studied so many texts and all. And he went there, then he brought, of course, Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj, who saw the birthplace and started to jump in ecstasy. And when they dug there to do the temple, the Yoga Pita, right? They found a murti of Vishnu there, and he saw that this was the Vishnu murti that was worshipped by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's parents. He also personally preached about pure Krishna Bhakti, and his activities demonstrated his limitless enthusiasm and determination for broadcasting Vaishnava Dharma. These characteristics are all indications of his being an eternal associate of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The Thakura was dedicated to the principle of truth from his childhood. His firm sense of responsibility in carrying out his duties, his ideal example of householder life, his eagerness to spend every moment possible cultivating and studying the science of Krishna consciousness, his punishing of the so-called avatara, Bisaki Sen, despite severe opposition. Bisaki Sen, Bhaktivinoda Thakur at that age, he was only 35 when he chastised him. He came with about 60 policemen in the dead of night in front of Bisaki Sen with all of his disciples, and Bisaki Sen became furious. There was fire coming out of his hair and his eyes. He had great mystic power. All the policemen were scared to death to arrest him, but Bhaktivinoda Thakur stood his ground and he said, "You think you're scaring me with your little, I come on behalf of the Supreme Lord," and so on. So he arrested. Just imagine the guts that he had. Would you go in the dead of night in a forest to arrest a yogi who's got some fire coming out? I wouldn't, but pure devotee. Despite severe opposition, his checking the murderous activities of the Kanjar thieves in Vrindavan, yes, his association with and affection for those who were dedicated to the worship of Krishna, and his visiting of various villages for spreading the message of Lord Gauranga both before and after his government retirement. All of these examples were meant for the edification and inspiration of all sincere and intelligent persons. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila, 22nd chapter, verse 75, Lord Chaitanya tells Srila Sanatana Gosvāmī, Sarva Mahaguna Gana Vaishnava Sharire, Krishna Bhakta Krishnera Guna Sakalich Sanchare. A Vaishnava is one who has developed all good transcendental qualities. All the good qualities of Krishna gradually develop in Krishna's devotee. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur was the personification of this verse. The 26 qualities of a pure Vaishnava are mentioned in the same chapter of Madhya Lila cited above, text 78-80. Kripalu Akrita Droha Satyasara Sama Nidosha Vadanya Mridu Shuchi Akinchana Sarvopakaraka Shanta Krishnaika Sharana Akama Aniha Stira Vijita Shadguna Mitabhuk Apramatta Manad Amani Gambhira Karuna Maitra Kavi Daksha Mauni. Devotees are always merciful, humble, truthful, equal to all, faultless, magnanimous, mild and clean. They are without material possessions and they perform welfare work for everyone. They are peaceful, surrendered to Krishna and desireless. They are indifferent to material acquisitions and are fixed in devotional service. They completely control the 6 bad qualities, lust, anger, greed, and so forth. They eat only as much as required, and they are not inebriated. They are respectful, grave, compassionate, and without false prestige. They are friendly, poetic, expert, and silent. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakur has discussed these 26 qualities at length in his introduction to Thakur Bhaktivinod's Jaiva Dharma. He mentions there that the Thakura displayed all of these qualities of a pure Vaishnava, and that the most directly perceived was his eagerness to remain always fixed in the devotional service of the Lord, without wasting a single moment. The Calcutta High Court Judge Sarada Charan Mitra, a friend of the Thakura, who supplied him with valuable old manuscripts, remarked in the 1916 introduction to the biography, A Glimpse into the Life of Thakur Bhaktivinod, I knew Thakur Bhaktivinod intimately as a friend and a relation. Even under pressure of official work as a magistrate in charge of a heavy subdivision, he could find time for devotional contemplation and work. And whenever I met him, our talk would turn in a few moments to the subject of bhakti and Dvaitavad, and the saintly work that they lay before him. Service of God is the only thing he longed for, and service under government, however honorable, was to him a clog. His daily schedule. Lalita Prasad Thakur, in his notes on his father's life, describes the Thakur's daily schedule while he was staying in Jagannath Puri. He was never idle, being always engaged in the service of the Lord. Between 7:30 and 8 p.m., he would go to bed. He would then rise just before 10 p.m., light his oil lamp, and write books until 4 a.m. Then he would again rest for a maximum of half an hour. At 4:30 a.m. he would wash his hands and face, sit down and chant on his beads. He never showed his beads to anyone but would chant on them constantly as time permitted. At 7 a.m. he answered all correspondence. At 7:30 a.m. read various religious and philosophical works. And at 8:30 a.m. he received visitors, if any, or else continued to read until 9:30. At that time he would walk back and forth on the veranda of his house, contemplating different religious questions and solving them in his mind. Sometimes he would solve them aloud as if preaching to some unseen guests. You know, there was this, when he was young, there was an Englishman who taught him the art of eloquent speech in public. And he told him that the Englishman spoke that when I practice my ways of speech, I would speak to the field, a field of, whatever, the vegetables, sometimes cornfields or whatever, the wheat. And in this way I practice. So now we see Bhaktivinoda Thakur is doing this and he's preaching. And Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakur also We don't care if someone comes to our meetings. We can preach to the walls also. So it's beneficial to preach, think in our mind and preach, even though there's nobody around. He would rest briefly from 9:30 a.m. to 9:45 a.m., then take bath and breakfast, which usually consisted of half quarter of milk, 2 chapatis, and some fruit. At 9:55 a.m., the Thakura would don his uniform and leave for court in his carriage. As a magistrate, he wore a coat and pants. On his neck were 6 strands of large tulasi beads. He was resolute in his court decisions and would decide a case immediately, not tolerating any humbug. He did his business and left. He shaved his head monthly and never cared what anyone thought of it. The lawyers and Englishmen were astounded by the Thakura's capacity for work. At 10 a.m., court began. He would hear between 30 and 50 cases per day, yet he finished by 1 p.m. That's 3 hours and hearing like 50 cases in 3 hours. I have to make the math. So 3 hours times 60, that's the amount of minutes, divided by 50. 3.6 minutes per case. Can you imagine that? 3.6 minutes. They come in, da-da-da-da, okay, guilty, boom, next, bam, bam, boom. What took other magistrate 1/2 hour, he finished in 5 minutes. He took another 2 minutes to write the judgment in detail. Some of his British superiors became envious and tried to discourage him, but he was not affected. At 1 p.m. he went home, refreshed himself, and then returned to work from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. Every evening after his court duties, Bhaktivinoda Thakur would translate some Sanskrit religious work into Bengali by dictating it to a secretary. He was dictating also. So secretary was writing. And we see how it happened to Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada had the tape recorder, and then that tape recorder was heard by the devotee who were typing. Then there was an evening bath and meal consisting of a little rice, 2 chapatis, and another half quarter of milk. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur worked with a pocket watch, so that everything he did was on schedule, despite his heavy domestic and official responsibilities. Bhaktivinoda Thakur's every moment was embellished with an intense desire to render service to the Lord. His character. In a glimpse into the life of Thakur Bhaktivinoda, Pandit Satkari Chattopadhyaya Siddhanta Bhusan, who was commissioned by the Thakura Bhaktivinoda Memorial Committee to write a short biography of the Thakura in 1916, has written glowingly of the Vaishnava character of the Thakura. He explained that Thakur Bhaktivinoda was so charitably disposed that no one ever went away from his home disheartened, and he who once called on him was sure to meet him again with a smiling face. Srila Bhaktivinoda befriended men regardless of their rank, a phenomenon especially visible when he wildly preached the holy name. He never bore any grudges, and those who were jealous of him or attempted to impede him in his spiritual mission were, in the long run, ashamed of their conduct and often came begging his pardon, which he never refused. And that there was the king of Orissa, at one point offended the Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and he became envious of him. He tried to kill him. He hired some Brahmana Pandit to perform a 1-month yagya to kill Bhaktivinoda Thakur. But at the last day when Bhaktivinoda Thakur was supposed to die, the king of Orissa's first son died actually. That's a story that I had never heard before reading this book. His sense of universal brotherhood made him the friend of all, and he was always eager for the benefit of all. Whoever contacted him was immeasurably benefited. The Thakura was never proud, and his amiable disposition was a characteristic feature of his life. He never uttered a word that would injure another's feelings, and he never chastised anyone unless he was perfectly confident that he had the right to do so for that person's welfare. On the other hand, whoever received a warning from him always felt himself purified by the experience. He did not possess the least shadow of vanity, although he was honored and respected throughout Bengal, Bihar, and Orissa. His profound knowledge of philosophy endeared him to the educated, and his devout bhakti made him the friend of both the gentle and the ruffians. As a government official, he was always taken into confidence by the British officials, and he was consequently well acquainted with the reasoning behind government decisions. He had witnessed the hard days of the Great Mutiny, and while he was in office, he assisted in quelling many disturbances. The biographer writes, his administrative ability was marked even by the ruling chief of Tippera, His Highness Maharaj Brichandra Manikya Bahadur, and his son, H. Maharaj Radha Kishore Varma Manikya Bahadur. Always esteemed his counsels and respected him as a friend and an honorary advisor of the state. The government of Bengal also on more than one occasion wanted to vest him with honors and titles, but he humbly declined the same each time on the ground that such honors would, instead of doing him good, stand against his holy mission. Even so late as 1897, when the plague raged furiously in the heart of Calcutta, his advice was valued and adopted by Sir John Woodburn. Commenting further on the extraordinary morality of the Thakura, Pandit Siddhanta Bhusan writes, never was a man found more strict in the observance of the moral duties than our Thakur. From his very infancy till his last day, he was a great advocate of truth and never allowed his associates to deviate from the path of duty, which he himself observed with more than strict accuracy. He avoided companies whenever he had the least suspicion of evil motives in them, and never harbored them so long they did not come to repentance. He had to encounter unpleasantness and on many occasions in the execution of public duty under the government by refusing to accept any present from any person. He was above corruption. He never supported the least shadow of immorality and never crossed the threshold of any place which he knew to be immoral. He had a great dislike for theaters, as these were places where public women were brought in to take part in the play. He knew the common people, who cared little for religion, and who had generally happy-go-lucky days to spend, were apt to go astray in the broad wilderness of the world, if he himself refrained from showing them the proper way by his own example. We can see also how Srila Prabhupada never went into a movie theater. He was actually dragged by one friend at one point, but he didn't even go inside. And he said, Prabhupada, that when he used to take the plane, he would close his eyes when the movie was playing, to not have the impression get in his mind. And we are nicely watching some videos on Facebook and YouTube and all. Example is better than precept, and so his absolute distaste for anything immoral helped many good souls to open their eyes, and also persons already in confusion to correct themselves. When the well-known dramatist Girish Chandra Ghosh came to request him for presiding over the gathering on the opening day of his well-known play Chaitanya Leela, he had to politely decline the offer. In this regard, the Ramakanta Chakravarti, and just to tell you, you see how even though it has to do with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because it's performed by some commoners, he declined. And now we have these nonsense people going to some Karmi's wedding. There was this wedding of this very rich Indian man, and who is it that went? That nonsense so-called brahmachari who speaks all Mayavad nonsense. He went there. Anyway. In this regard, Dr. Ramakanta Chakravarti explains that a Calcutta stage artist and demi-monde, a woman with a scandalous reputation, named Srimati Binodini, was to play the role of Lord Chaitanya. The famous priest of Kali, Ramakrishna, attended as the guest of honor instead. Although the play was very popular and well received, we see that the Thakura would not lend his dignity and authority to such a mundane presentation. Pandit Siddhanta Bhusan continues, he was a complete abstainer and a perfect teetotaler, and never chewed even a beetle. The word debt was, as it were, unknown to him, and he was very prompt in making payments. He was always true to his word, and punctuality was at all times specially observed in him. The Thakura was always courageous and acted for the welfare of everyone. He kept his personal needs to a bare minimum and led the simplest of lives, avoiding the indulgences of worldly men. His writing. Bhaktivinoda Thakur was an expert linguist, conversant with English, Urdu, Persian, Oriya, Bengali, and Sanskrit. He had a taste for history and a keen mind for research. He was a voracious reader of the Puranas and other Vedic texts, as well as the writings of numerous ancient and modern European authors. He could cite passages from scriptures such as the Bible and the Quran on appropriate occasions. His habit was to uncover every facet of whatever subject matter he examined, and this thoroughness of endeavor never faltered. He was above all a self-realized soul, whose numerous writings will inspire people for centuries to come. From the age of 12, when he wrote Harikatha and Shumbha Nishumbha Yuddha, until his final days, his pen was never idle. Starting to write at 12 years old, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's disciple, Shri Bhakti Pradip Tirtha, has written in his book Thakur Bhaktivinoda. His writings have made the sacred teachings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu fully available to every modern reader, and in a form which carries irresistible conviction and devotion. For this reason, the works of Thakur Bhaktivinoda require to be translated into all the languages of the world. The Thakur has written in a comparative manner so as to bring the teachings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu into relationship with almost every school of thought prevalent in the world. And his writings give us the full revelation of spirit and divinity to the fullest measure that is possible to be conveyed by the instrument of human speech. The Thakura composed hundreds of poems and songs, combining the deep, transcendental emotions of their author with the wealth of Vaishnava philosophy. The world has inherited from him many wonderful books on Lord Chaitanya's teachings. At every step of his life, the Thakura displayed a transparent godliness, a godliness evident in every page of his books. In his books, he has clearly delineated the distinction between genuine transcendentalists and pretenders in order to thwart the pseudo-devotees who dress as Vaishnavas with the aim of filling their stomachs and indulging their senses. His clear signaling of this difference between genuine Vaishnavas and bogus pretenders, also a theme of his son, Srila Saraswati Thakur, and his son's guru, Srila Gaura Kishore Das Babaji, awakened the intelligentsia of India, who had become cynical due to the so-called spiritualists, and caused them to appreciate the beauty of Lord Chaitanya's precepts. The Thakura was seen, and rightly so, as a God-sent pioneer of the movement for re-establishing unalloyed devotion to God. For he exhibited the real meaning of Lord Chaitanya's doctrines by his preaching and exemplary behavior. He always stressed that the jiva cannot realize his spiritual nature unless he wholeheartedly surrenders himself to an authentic spiritual master for guidance. He taught true renunciation by engaging all that he possessed in the service of Krishna. He radically opposed the bogus caste system, which judged a person worth by his birth. With full scriptural support, he insisted that one's social position is to be determined by guna and karma, by one's quality and work. He vigorously denounced the doctrines of salvationists and elevationists for their being against the principle of pure devotion. He thereby made significant inroads toward the reformation of the materialistic mentality of many of his countrymen. His predictions. He proposed that all contending theories and religions could be unified through the scientific teachings of Lord Chaitanya, for the universal religion of all souls is devotional service to the Supreme Lord. It was his specific desire that the teachings of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu be spread all over the world. In his monthly Vaishnava journal, Sajjana Toshini, he wrote, Shriman Mahaprabhu did not descend with his associates to deliver a certain number of human beings in the land of India, but rather his purpose was to deliver and uplift all living beings in all countries of the world by practicing the eternal religion of all souls. He quoted from the Chaitanya Bhagavatam, Prithivi Parjanta Chatahache Desha Gram, Sarvatra Sanchara Hoibek More Nam. My name will be preached in all the countries and towns that exist throughout the world. He then prayerfully invoked the Lord and expressed this heartfelt desire. There are many kinds of religion in the world, and among all them, the highest development of religion is the congregational chanting of the Supreme Lord's divine names. Of this there is no doubt. Alas, When will that day come when all greatly fortunate souls in countries such as England, France, Russia, Prussia, and America will take up banners, kettle drums, mridangas, and kartals, and thus cause the ecstatic waves of Harinam Kirtan and the singing of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's holy name to rise in the streets of their towns and cities? Or when will that day come when pure transcendental Vaishnava Prema will be the only religion of all souls, and all tiny sectarian religions will meet in the unlimited and universal religion of Vaishnavisms as rivers merge into the great ocean? Or when will that day come? Advaita Acharya invoked the descent of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for the salvation of the souls of this age, and along with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Kali Yuga avatar, who is forever prepared to distribute his mercy, descended the holy name of Krishna. In the same way, the great eternal associates of the Lord have descended to keep the mercy of the great current of Kirtan flowing strongly. The earnest entreaties of those great souls who invoke the mercy of the Lord with every breath bring inconceivable shelter to those lost in the darkness of material existence. When Srila Vasudev Dutt Thakur offered to accept all the sins of all the souls in the universe if they could be delivered by the Lord, Sri Chaitanya told him, "Whatever a pure devotee wants from his master, Lord Krishna doubtlessly grants, because he has no other duty other than to fulfill the desire of his devotee. If you desire the deliverance of all living entities within the universe, then all of them can be delivered, even without your undergoing the tribulations of sinful activities. Krishna is not incapable, for he has all potencies. Why would he induce you to suffer the sinful reactions of other living entities? Whosoever's welfare you desire immediately becomes a Vaishnava, and Krishna delivers all Vaishnavas from the reactions of their past sinful activities. Because of your honest desire, all living entities within the universe will be delivered, for Krishna does not have to do anything to deliver all the living entities of the universe." Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya chapter 15, 165 to 171. In answer to the prayers of Srila Satchidananda Bhaktivinoda Thakur, the great personifications of compassion and mercy, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakur and Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada came to fulfill his desires by the power of his pure desires and the identical pure desires of his son and his son's disciples, as well as the desire of all the pure devotees, pure followers of the Lord. The universe will surely be delivered. Billions of souls will go back to Godhead by the mercy of these pure Vaishnavas. Such is the power of one who is as good as God. Yes, the empowerment of the pure devotees of the Lord to deliver others. So anyway, this is the end. I will not be reading all the appendices. There's many excerpts from Srila Prabhupada's letters. If you would like to read, you can simply type on Google the 7 Gosvāmī PDF. You will find this. So these are all different places where Prabhupada speaks of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And then there is excerpts from the books of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada about Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So first is the classes, then is excerpts from his books. You can go and read if you want. There's a lot of, he spoke about him in many places. Then the literary works of Thakur Bhaktivinoda, this is the list, 1849, you know. You can see how much he wrote. Each year is like a paragraph. You know. It describes here. It describes. This is very valuable. That each work is explained. Wow, it doesn't end. Then a glossary. So this is all only the meaning of the words like that. Yes. So this is it. So thank you so much for having joined us. It was very nice reading 6 days straight. I thought it would be shorter, but it was nice. So thank you for all of you who have been very constant, especially. I know that Jani Prabhu must have watched maybe all of the series. Sami Prabhu also. Anandini Mataji, I believe that she also watched most of them. This is my mother. Wrote Haribol. I don't think she understands English very well. I grew up speaking French. So, okay, thank you so much. Thank you very much for having attended. This is the shortest session so far as we are finishing. I would just like to read one more time the prayer of Srila Bhaktivinoda. Namo Bhaktivinodaya Satchidanandanamine Gaura Shakti Swarupaya Rupanuga Swarayate. So thank you very much. I hope you have appreciated our little endeavor to read this work. So, of course, what can I add to this? I just wanted to read it actually, and I thought why not read it online so that other devotees also can hear. So thank you very much, and we'll see you in the next live broadcast. We are trying to revive the Krishna Conscious Taboo series, so pray for us that we can do so. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyeva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Anantakoti Vaishnavanda ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gopramanande. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Hari Hari Bol.